Great. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We'll start with our roll call.
Commissioner Bach,
Here.
Commissioner Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Hester,
Here.
Commissioner Keen,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Rooney, Chairman Boroff.
Here. Okay, thank you. A good turnout tonight. Doesn't look like we have any public comment unless we have any write-ins or mail-in sorts of comments. Okay. Then we'll go forward to the approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any feedback on the minutes as presented? I have a couple of comments. No typos or grammatical sorts of inputs, so thank you for that. So let's see on.
You know, in the future, we'll make sure we label these page numbers so it's
Yeah.
easier when we have conversations to flip to it.
So it's the second piece of paper. The first paragraph starts "to that pass option." So the last paragraph there is I believe this is how chronologically the discussion went, but we sort of reverted to some discussion on Gateway. And there's a section earlier about Gateway. I wonder if we should move this paragraph to have it sit next to the rest of the Gateway discussion, because I found it a little confusing. We were changing.
We did. We were talking, and then we kind of
Yeah,
another question came up and we
I think it's
backtracked.
accurate chronologically.
Yeah, we can
but
move that.
for sort of a reader, it might be easier if that
Yep.
sat with the other Gateway paragraphs. And then similarly, I guess on the next page or the back page of that, after that SRA, then we talk about online registration in that next paragraph. Maybe there's some labeling there or like a header or something, because it wasn't clear to me that all of a sudden we've switched to talking about rec programming. So we went on to mention that online registration, maybe moving that Gateway paragraph helps that, but I would have, like, logically I was like, well, what were we registering for?
Yeah, no, it makes
Gateway?
sense. I mean, it makes sense for all of us because we were there, but to the general public, I get it, so.
Yeah. And then, sorry, if I go back to that last paragraph about Gateway on the prior page, there's a third to last line. Chairman Boroff added that as an ADA requirement. I think I might have sort of parroted back something that I heard just sort of for interpretation. I don't want that to suggest that I knew that was an ADA requirement and I was adding new information because I don't believe that is or was the case. So you might just strike that whole line. I'm not sure that. It's third to last line on that page.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all my comments.
Sounds good.
Anybody else? No? All right. Okay, so our liaison reports? Oh, no, we gotta approve the minutes. Sorry about that. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes as adjusted?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right. Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
Commissioner Keen,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Chairman Boroff.
Aye. Okay, minutes pass. Okay, so moving on to liaison reports, Mike?
Yeah, so there's a lot of information here, and I just before we start, I just want to kind of be clear that I'm not looking for action on any of this. This is really an informative update from Gateway, but they're doing a lot of good things, and I think it's good to share with the public. First and foremost is they are working on a marketing/branding re-audit with their logo and with their brochure. For years upon years, they've used the same logo, and it's been kind of stale, they feel. A lot of the other SRA logos are, they spell out the word special recreation, they're bright in color, they show energy. So the Gateway Board is getting this information from Ray Graham, and they're presenting it to the board and giving us a bunch of ideas of what they're thinking. The Gateway Board has gone back to them and given them some advice back of what we would like to see, but there will be some branding changes coming over the course of the next few months, and as those come, I'll bring it to you guys to share. I think this is a great opportunity for the Special Rec Association. It's showing just some new life and new energy, and I'm really happy to see us taking this approach, because it's just been the same thing over and over and over again. So you could read through that. If you have any questions on it, I feel free to let me know, but there's a tremendous amount of information here. One thing that is interesting that I found is Ray Graham did send out a survey to all of the member agencies, which is reflected on page, I think it starts on page 7 of this. So you can kind of see what some of the other member agencies were thinking overall about branding or colors and suggestions. So I just wanted to bring this information to you guys. You get a little glimpse of what other municipalities are also feeling and saying at the board level for Gateway.
And Mike, how are we supposed to, because the number of responses is very low, particularly when you get to participants.
There's only, which page, if you help me?
Well, I mean, page 7.
Those responses are the board members.
Those are the board members.
So there's only 8 board members that was sent out to the board only.
Okay. And then starting on 13, where it's participant survey with 8 responses.
This was only out to the board. So those 8 responses are all the board level. So this is like step 1 of probably 200 they're going to do. But we were just presented 3 weeks ago with this. We actually have a meeting this Thursday again coming up. So we're hoping to get some more information from Ray Graham on their progress on this. I did continue to add in their report that they provide us, which is, it's the same thing pretty much every single month, but I do like showing how Hinsdale's registered participants over the course of the year is maintaining still at the 2nd highest level next to Elmhurst, probably because Elmhurst is like 4 times the size of us, but Hinsdale is doing very well as far as participation. Residents are using our programs, and we did Ray Graham did include in the Gateway report some pictures of participants at programs. It is a pleasure for me to announce, I know 3-4 meetings ago, I mentioned about this Adult Elevate program that was coming, this transitional program, that is off the ground. So they did hire a rec coordinator, supervisor, whatever their title is now, to manage it. It's going to be hosted out of Oak Brook, and it is also going to be taking part a little out of KLM too, so out of some of our buildings out there. This point, this program is participants are not staged in a building or a location one day, but it's more of a meeting place where they're going to start and end the day, and then they're going to go out in the community and learn real life skills and tasks, how to transition into adult jobs, adult workforce essentially. So I think this is a great program. We have 1 Hinsdale resident signed up for it already. I don't know numbers in the other communities, so I'm hoping to get another update on that on Thursday. For us as the village, we did support them and put an ad in the Hinsdalian letting know the launch of this program. I actually included that in my correspondence later on in the agenda here.
There is mention in here that it says currently have 6 individuals, I guess, signed up for the Elevate program.
I think there's more than that now.
Yeah,
By the time I got
is there a target or sort of a
Right now, they're-
break even sort of number that they're looking?
target right now is just to get the program going because it's such a unique concept and it is a very costly program for participants to get into because it's a year-long program. It's 5 days a week, a solid year. But I can ask her at our next meeting what their target goal is. I think they're overall just thrilled that people are starting to take advantage of it. and that they have a location. That was a struggle, is they just didn't have a location to host it in. So Oak Brook helping out is tremendous.
And I was curious to see the fees for that on this one page. And, I guess, $800 per month for 5 days.
It's pretty standard. It's pretty standard amongst all the other programs. I mean, this is covering the support of staff, full-time staff, part-time staff, transportation, anything that they need for the program. But it's a pretty standard fee that they're charged, and they assessed with other surrounding special rec associations and what they charge too.
Yeah. And I didn't personally have a reaction to that being high or low. I wondered though, for Elevate and even for the junior programs, are there like scholarships or financial aid available if families can't afford those?
Not with us. I'm not sure if Ray Graham offers it, but us as a village, no, we do not. They may have some thing in their own independent organization that they offer, but I'm not sure what that is. I can ask and give an update on that.
I was wondering if we've ever run into that, the fees, the participant fees being a barrier to participation, an accessibility.
I've
question.
never run into it from a special rec association. I've run into it from a general programming standpoint. And I do know that some municipalities do set money aside sometimes for scholarships and whatnot. But here we just don't have that planned, essentially.
Right. And to your knowledge, we've never heard of a need for that.
To my knowledge,
at least within our
to
community.
my knowledge, no. And I haven't actually been, since I've been here, nobody has approached me from a general program standpoint either. I've heard it in other agencies I've worked for.
So is there is there a timeline around for Elevate in terms of when you sign up? You said it's a year-long program. Is it a gradual thing, or can people sign up at any point?
So
or do you have to or is there sort of like
No.
an actual start and end point?
There's a start and end point, but how these programs work is you can come in the middle, and it doesn't really matter. They'll prorate accordingly. But just like day camps go, they want them the whole season. It's easier when you get somebody the whole season, but sometimes you're going to have somebody that's traveling or has other obligations and comes in the middle of the season.
So for this Elevate program that they're doing, like what's the start date?
September of 2024 and ending September of 2025. I don't know the exact date,
Okay.
but I did ask that question since they're using some of our facilities of when you need it through, and they specifically said September 2025, and I'll get back to you on a date.
Okay.
I think it said September 9th, didn't it, on the thing that the correspondence you sent
Yeah,
out?
well, it says.
Which would have been
September.
yesterday,
Yeah.
I guess, Monday.
Okay.
Okay, any other,
September 9th launch date, yep.
anything else, Mike, that you wanted to point out?
No, I think it's just great, and I'm overall to see some action, coming, and I think overall, I just want to say, kudos to the whole entire Gateway board for really trying to turn up the screws a little bit and get progress going.
Yeah, I know we just went through kind of a recontracting or whatever with Ray Graham, right? And
Correct.
there was a potential competitor to
Correct.
offering these services. Do you feel like, I don't know, has that lit a fire under anybody? And that's why all this activity all of a sudden?
No, it lit a fire underneath the board because the board overall wanted to see growth. They wanted to see change. They wanted to see some more action. They just felt it was just going through the motion over and over. So sometimes, change is good, and it was really driven by the board just pushing them of saying, hey, we want to know a marketing plan. We want to know how many participations, we want to start this Elevate program. Really us just kind of turning up the heat, and we negotiate all that in our new contract too. That is my SRA update. And
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, then moving along to our reports, starting with the staff report.
Yeah, a couple things before we start the staff report. I did put some loose papers in front of your places tonight. Some of them are gonna pertain to this staff report, some of them is just some correspondence that came in. But the one page, it is literally page 1 on the staff report. We did notice as we were going through the staff report that numbers were not adding up on our table. So I had staff go back and rerun it and recalculate everything. It is posted correctly online, but I want to make sure you guys have the appropriate information when we go through this conversation. Todd?
So just right off the bat, our fall brochure is live now. Registrations have started, and they are coming in quickly. We had a really good first, I would say, week of registrations, and they've kind of pushed through, and we'll talk about some of at least the special events coming up here that kind of got launched with that. That chart goes over our summer class enrollments compared to last summer. So you can see that the amount of classes that we've had run and enrollments have dropped a bit, but that doesn't account for the programs that we have offered. So in 2023, they offered 316 classes and 194 of those ran, whereas this year we offered 385 classes. So we have increased the offering, but for some reason or another, or one reason or another, certain classes just didn't take. And that could be due to other co-op agencies that we're working with. We just didn't get enough enrollments. Whether, it could be a ton of different reasons, but we are continuing to track that to make sure it is nothing, or that we can add more beneficial programs that will run in the future as well.
So how do you determine if they run or not? Is there a cutoff or?
So each class has a minimum and maximum. Right now, we currently work with 9 different co-ops or park districts or villages. So if we're running, for example, a dance class and they need 4 enrollments, that's 4 enrollments from maybe 3 of those co-op park districts or agencies. If we only have, if we have 3 and no one else has any, they just cancel that program out, even though we do have that. And that's unfortunately due to space. A lot of our programs being that we co-op with are either indoor space. We can't just offer that class here just because we have no programming space. So it all depends on kind of other agencies and what their minimums are or what the contractor's minimums are. But that does vary program by program, class by class.
So if am I thinking about this right? You ran 139, you offered 385.
Correct.
So you got a hit rate of like 33%.
Yep. And that's 385 classes. If you look at like number of programs, so we offered 172 programs. So best way to explain that is lacrosse. We have 4 divisions of lacrosse. So that would be we had 172 programs like that, but their 4 divisions would be the number of classes that we would offer, if that makes that distinction a little bit better.
You said we're not entirely sure why that's been the outcome in 2024 relative to 23, but is that concerning to you?
Not really, honestly. I mean, if we had a specific designated our own programs, which we don't in-house, which is fine, it might be, but because we're co-oping with so many people, it's really out of our control. But it's not concerning me in the summertime. A lot of people travel during the summertime. I think as we start collecting this data, if we keep seeing trends, then we might want to start asking some questions. But it really varies. I mean, it could be weather cancellations too for summer, travel, like I said, or it could just simply be because some of the co-ops that we worked with stopped offering some of these programs. You know, even though we show more offerings, they might have just got rid of one. One of them, which I know is archery. We offered, or somebody offered archery at one point, and it's gone now. No one's offering archery. So we're kind of really at the mercy of working with our joint partners in this.
But you're comparing summer 2024 to summer 2023.
Correct.
I mean, off the top of my head, there's two possible reasons that, you know, we're seeing a decline. One is we're not offering the right class, like the classes that interest our audience. Therefore, we have a lower uptake rate. Or we're not getting the word out to people that all of these classes exist.
And keep in mind, some of these programs, and I haven't looked at our bottom line or anything, but some of these programs might be more costly too. So when the past lacrosse program might have been $60 and now it's $190. So that could help with drop off too. Even though we're getting more money, people are taking less classes. And I know that is true in some of our programs. The cost did go up on some of them.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, lacrosse is a prime example. Our numbers from last year to this year are at least 20% higher. So that will offset, you know, our lacrosse programs around $300 for the season, whereas some of these one-off classes are $35. So one person in our lacrosse class is going to cover 4 to 5 in one of our other programs.
Right.
What makes it hard with some of this stuff is, like, you know, even though our co-ops are close, you know, I mean, participants aren't also going to drive to Woodridge. You know, it's getting too far. So unfortunately, like, if we're working with somebody like Darien and they don't want to offer youth volleyball anymore and no one else wants to offer youth volleyball, our hands are kind of tied on it a little bit.
And these enrollment numbers are Hinsdale resident enrollment, or is it aggregated with?
That is resident and not resident. So that's just total program numbers.
Oh, and can we distinguish our own enrollments versus enrollments from other communities?
Yeah, we can. I would say our non-resident's not very large, but yes, we can.
So these are only the registrations we take in. This is not like our co-op. So like if we co-opt with a program with the community house, for example, their numbers aren't included in this, if that makes. So these are just strictly who have registered and are taking the class with us. So if we have a class that we need a minimum of 10 and 5 are from us and 5 are from another agency, we're only showing the numbers of our 5 that are currently enrolled in those programs.
Okay, so this isn't just our resident.
No, to clarify, it is not. These numbers do reflect non-residents because we will have some non-residents that come in from other towns, LaGrange, because they want to take our lacrosse program. They pay a non-resident fee to the Village of Hinsdale. What Todd was trying to say is these numbers don't reflect what other agencies may have. So, Chris, yes, we can break this out between resident and non-resident, but these are people that specifically signed up through the Village of Hinsdale only, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Is there any reason why would a non-resident sign up through Hinsdale's site if a program is not offered by Hinsdale?
Because we advertise in our brochure guide everyone's programs that we co-op with. So lacrosse, going back into lacrosse, you know, we offer it with us in the community house, but non-residents want to partake in it so they can come and register with us, or in their community might not offer it. So what we advertise in the program guide is everybody's that we co-op across the board with. So that's why they would come, essentially.
This really represents the source of the registration. We're one source of registrations for these programs. Some cases, we're the exclusive source. In
Very
in
little.
Other cases,
Yeah.
there's other ways to register that are not through us.
Correct. I could probably count in one hand the exclusive programs. But yes, there could be 2, 3, 4 places people can go.
I mean, I'm just trying to connect this to what I believe our goal of this kind of programming is, which is to provide recreation services to a broad swath of our residents, and you know, stuff that they want to do, stuff that's engages them, and you know, I realize it's just one season, but this concerns me a little, that we're either not hitting the mark in terms of what we're offering, we're not hitting the mark in terms of awareness. You know, it'd be good to kind of parse out the non-residents so that we can better understand what's happening within the people that we really care about, which is our residents, relative to that goal of serving them well.
And maybe think of it in the context of what percent of the population is engaging in any particular program.
No, and I think a lot of this will be answered, and you know, as we go forward, we're gonna have a lot of work coming up with this master plan, and a lot of this stuff is gonna come out of it. So, yes, we can get more and more data. We're gonna build more and more data, but we're gonna get a lot more data as we start going through some motions and some stuff here.
And in our database that we started, actually, we started that fall of when I started last year, fall of last year. That database of where we have all of our classes, how many people enrolled, how many were on a wait list, even if the program has been canceled, we've been tracking that. So starting next brochure, we'll be able to have a better comparison of why programs were running, why programs were, if they were canceled, you know, was it an enrollment number? Was it our problem? Was it enrollment numbers from another facility? So starting next brochure, we'll actually have a full year.
We'll have lapped-
We'll be able to
sort of lapped
start
ourselves.
actually comparing with that chart and that database we've been creating. This last summer, it was.
I mean,
just
to me,
not able
it
do
just points to the value of that data, and you know, I realize that you guys implemented new registrations and data collection and so forth for this very purpose, and so we're not quite there yet. But yeah, once we have like real year-over-year comparative data, perhaps in the fall, that seemed like that would be really valuable to us, to understanding what these trends really are. Because on the surface, this trend to me doesn't look like a good one. We don't quite know why, but and we may not be comparing apples to apples from a data perspective, but that's where the value of the data that we're now collecting can really come in.
And then on to our special events. I'll do that. So Fall Fest is coming up, October 12th. It'll be from 11 to 2 p.m. right out front here in Burlington Park. Currently, we have 13 sponsors, 10 of which will be having tables set up, 3 of which are food trucks. We're also working with the Community House, Chamber of Commerce, Library, and Hinsdalean to put this event on like we have in years past. So really excited and got everything set and ready to go for that. Breakfast with Santa, which is set for November 30th, is officially sold out. That got sold out within a day of going live. So that's where we were saying registrations when we went live. That sold out really quickly. Pizza with Santa, we have 15 spots left. That's also on November 30th. And then our Winter Wonderland, we currently have 300 of the 800 spots taken, and that is going to be on December 1st at KLM this year.
A couple of things I want to touch base on here, and I told Todd I would speak about them, is one, the village did, and it is an agenda item on here, so we can talk about it later on in the agenda if needed, but the village did bring back the Holiday Express this year. We worked with Metra. We were able to obtain 135 train tickets for 2 train trips through Metra. The program opened on Friday, August 23rd, and at 9 a.m. and at 10 a.m. it was completely waitlisted with over 100 people. So it's clearly a very popular program. This is one of those that we are really tied down to what Metra allows us to do. And this train's on a Sunday, so we're between our train trips and how they overlap, we're running trains between 9 and 5 p.m. at night. But Metra really limits this now for all towns because every town on the railroad wants to do this. I remember when it started back in the years, I was doing it in like 2007, you can get like 4 or 5 train cars, and now they give you 1, if that. So I was happy for them to work with us again, and we did make contact with the Roundhouse. So we're going to bring back that same relationship we had with the Roundhouse. Go down there, have breakfast, have lunch, arts and crafts, and Santa will be down there, and it'll just be like how it was prior to COVID. So we're excited to have that back. If you want to volunteer, I definitely need help for the events, so feel free.
How did we get the word out on that?
You know, I did one Facebook post. That's it. That we put in one Facebook post.
What's the date on that?
November 24th. The other thing that, and it's in front of your place right tonight, we did talk in the last meeting about the July 4th parade, and it was asked to provide a list of 2024 paid parade acts. So we did provide that list to you guys so you can see how much we paid, who we had for a paid act. I do want to note in the middle section where it says Downers Grove Collab, so for the first one it says Merry Marchers. So we collaborated that with Downers Grove. That 600 is not split. That is our price. So we paid 600 and Downers Grove paid 600. So if you have any ideas as we go through the season, please share them with us. If you find yourself bored at home and want to research anything online, please send it to us. These acts book very quickly. We're already in the process of trying to book acts for 2025. But in order to get ahead of the game, we really got to move on them and grab who we can.
Go, Dan.
So, I mean, you have, you have a lot more participants in the parade than what's listed here, though.
Absolutely. We have
So-
local businesses. I'm not worried about the local businesses and the local
So these are
organizations.
just the ones that are like, we're not showing up unless you pay us.
Yes, so these are the excitements. These are the ones that the people want to see with the dancers and the fun things. So yeah, essentially, they're the ones that we have to pay to make them play.
How do you determine the universe of like who these groups are?
Well, a lot of these are pretty common in surrounding communities as far as parades, but we also vet them too. So I know a lot of these on here the village has been using for quite a long time, but we also want to see what they're performing, what they're offering, if they're bringing excitements, and that they're family friendly to the community and to the village of
Are
Hinsdale.
organizations like this approaching you throughout the year saying, hey,
Some do.
We're for sale if you want us?
Jesse White Tumblers does, and they did last year. That's how we picked them up, and same with Princess Party. But some of them we approached, like Sarah's Ponies, we called them and cold called them this year to get them. Same with Circus Boy Bob. We cold called. We did a Google search on a website. We had our intern out there for 2 days looking at acts and having him cold call people, and we had Adam send us some footage of what he was doing, liked it, and asked him.
Do these organizations like sort of advertise themselves as parade acts? Is that how?
I see some on Google, yes, but you do need to do some searching sometimes too. But yeah, they do advertise themselves and they do book very, very, very quickly.
So you do a little research project too.
But some of the feedback we received this year, and as we discussed in the last meeting, is some of our residents wanted to see more bands, see some more exciting acts out there. So we're trying to listen to that resident feedback. One thing, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe you did secure LT marching band. Leiden, sorry. Leiden marching band. So we're trying our best to get ahead of the curve a little bit. So if you know any marching bands, send them my way. It's really hard to make contacts with these bands when school's out or kids are on vacation and et cetera.
I was surprised to see the range of the fees that we pay these groups, particularly the couple that are $1,500 plus.
Yeah, there's some.
Are those like really hot? Personally, they don't look that interesting to me for that cost, but
Some of them are really costly to get, but some of them we're also looking at to what they have to offer for that fee. So, I can tell you one of the groups on here where we kind of observed them over the years and we're probably going to get rid of them and reallocate that money towards another group. But that is a pretty standard range of fees for parades. I mean, I've been quoted up to $4,000 for an act for this parade, which obviously I did not secure. Yeah, and as Andre mentioned here, 4th of July is a really hot day. I mean, we're competing directly against Brookfield's parade, and then we're co-directing with Downers Grove parade, and I'm sure there's a few others around here, but surrounding right in this small little community, there's 3 parades that are pretty big. Anyhow, sorry, Todd, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I also had just sort of a question or comment on the, all of the different special events that are planned for the fall around the holidays. Mike, you and I have had a little conversation around this. Are you guys getting concerned about your ability, your capacity for managing this many events? And in particular, it sounds like we added the Polar Express back. We didn't take anything away, so that's a net add of responsibility.
It is going to be a busy season, but we were very proactive and started posting for help at our pool. So we were able to secure multiple lifeguards to help us out, which is a practice the village did in the past. Then the COVID hit and all these events went away. So we reestablished that. We also have our staff at KLM, and administrative wise, they've opened up their arms here. Most of the administrative staff willing to volunteer their time and come and help us with events too. So handling them all, no, we'll get it all done. Do we want to add more? No. We've hit our holiday threshold here right now, but it's going to be great for the community, and we will staff it accordingly and appropriately.
Okay. At some point, it might be a trade-off. If we want to add something, we got to take something out too.
Sure, and I think that goes back to how the events were attended. How many people signed up for the events, how many people were actually there, and that's all things we really observe. I know years ago, breakfast with Santa was really big, and then we added in lunch with Santa, and it's still really big. But if you ever see one of those dying down, that's when our conversations will have to come up of maybe this one's run its course. And kind of similarly, and we're going to talk about as a discussion item here, is Corks and Forks. That's an event that may have run its course, and it's time to take it away or re-spruce it up.
When is Winter Wonderland?
December 1st.
December 1st.
Yep, and that'll be at KLM. It goes from 9 a.m. to the last group starts at 12, so it goes till 1. So
And
each
that-
hour we have 4 different groups.
And is that a paid
Yes.
event? Like how do you keep somebody from just showing up?
We don't. People do show up, but we do have registration software and abilities out there at KLM, so we'll bring our computers with us and help them out. We've never said no to anyone on that event. It's such a popular event, and it's over such a big property. It's really easy.
What I was thinking, like somebody's just gonna show up.
Yeah.
I mean,
we keep 'em out.
we did do wristbands, so some of the stuff where you have to go inside, like our craft station or meeting Mr. and Mrs. Claus or the Frozen, Arundel's Frozen Castle. Those are all indoor things where we can limit that if somebody's just trying to scoot on in. Other things like the hot chocolate with the carolers, that's relatively open, but we didn't have any real issues with that last
The nice thing about all these
winter.
events, and it's just not the village of Hinsdale, but the chamber is also doing events. There will be an opportunity for a resident child to see Santa in this village from the weekend before Thanksgiving to the weekend before Christmas. So it's a nice opportunity, and we also will have Santa letters, of course, again. All right. So I'll move on to the facility section of this report. Chris and I chatted, and we wanted to break this report up going forward to programming and to facilities, just so we kind of had a sense of what we're talking about. Things weren't mixed and mashed together. So on the facility end of the report, our garden plots at Pierce Park did exceptional this year. We have 12 garden plots, and 10 of them were reserved. In comparison, last year I think we only had 6. So we did do some postings, some paper ads out there. This is a really nice aspect for the community. If you don't know where the garden plots are, they're over behind the Wellness House by Pierce Park. We have access to water out there. It's zero work for the village Parks and Rec team. As a renter, you're responsible for your own plantings, your own waterings, and all the removal of the debris by a set date.
Those are those raised sort
Yeah.
of tables.
Yep, yep.
Do you bring your own dirt, or is that?
There's dirt in there. The village did do that, and they will repair them as needed because they do get weathered. That was a Boy Scout project way back in the day that was built, and part of the reason I want to bring up the garden plots is it's taking over. It's doing so well. We're exploring the idea of possibly having plots on another side of the community, maybe towards Mellon or Stow. I think I'd love the commission's feedback, but I think this is a great opportunity for another scout project. We have all these Eagle Scouts keep approaching us for projects, and if we do get approached down the road, I just like an arsenal of ideas in my back pocket. So if anyone has any feedback on it or a park suggestion or idea, but I do know we don't want to put them in a small neighborhood park. We don't want to put them somewhere Dietz. It's going to look really not a right fit for it. But some of our bigger parks out there, we have enough space where we can kind of tuck them away. They're not on top of a house. Parking's not an issue, and et cetera.
Yeah, I was just thinking as far as tucking away, also just from people not vandalizing them, because Pierce, it's behind the wellness house, is a pretty hidden place, which is good. So yeah, just finding a place that's big enough, but that they're a little bit out of the way,
Sure.
which would be where.
My reaction that if you only sold 10 of the 12 plots, why would we add more?
I think how I've seen these programs work is you usually have them on the east side or west side of town or north side or south side of town, and most of the people that are doing the garden plots right now by Pierce,
They don't wanna go.
half of actually I think 4 of them are the wellness house specifically, but it's a lot of the neighbors right there. So on a trial basis, my thought is if a scout does approach us, whether they'll do it or not, I'm not looking for us to go out there and build them. But for a trial basis, we could say, hey, we have this location. Why don't you build 4 plots? We'll see what the appetite is. If it doesn't work, we can move them then over to Pierce back to Pierce and et cetera, and replace some of the ones that are starting to rot and et cetera.
Yeah, the notion of distributing them, kind of equally to different ends of the community, that makes a lot of sense.
So, all right, KLM Pavilion Rentals. I don't know if we've ever touched base on this in the past. I did put it in there. Our rentals are extremely popular out at KLM. We had 53 rentals to date, and a little over $10,000 of revenue. Those rentals they're booming, and they're definitely a challenge to coordinate. Kudos to Tom here for doing it, but we have to coordinate around events, weddings, paddleball Montessori school events, soccer games, cross-country meets, and et cetera. So there are some dates where we can't rent out the pavilions just because there's too much going on at KLM when we need to focus on traffic of the facility. But overall, they're phenomenal, and we've had nothing but phenomenal feedback from them this year.
Who are the typical renters and for what sorts of?
And
activities
I've
or
seen
events?
family reunions, I've seen birthday parties, friends reunions, baby showers, wedding showers. It's kind of all over the board. Corporate events. It's a perfect opportunity for somebody that doesn't necessarily want to rent KLM, for the full experience and just only wants to be out there for a couple hours and be with their friends and have a picnic.
I mean, they're pretty big. We did them in the past for Cub Scout troops and for baseball teams, and they hold quite a few people.
We just had one on last Sunday. They rented out the South Shelter. It was for a charity walk. So we'll get a lot of charities that'll try to fundraise money. They'll rent it out, and then they'll walk around the path X amount of times and raise money for whatever charity.
How do groups learn about pavilion rental opportunities?
Honestly, it's in our brochure. It's on our website. We've done social media ads. That's probably why it blew up this year, is we did push earlier in the spring some media ads on it. Did not take out a paper article on it this year. But I think it's just honestly word of mouth. And KLM's a really, really busy park. So I'm sure between the Frisbee people and the dog walkers and all the weddings that are out there, people are visibly seeing them and inquiring on it too.
Do we rent the Burns Pavilion? I'm aware of that pavilion. Maybe there are other pavilions at other parks.
We have rented it. It's not posted to the public to rent, just because A, it's not that big. But if we get an inquiry, we'll work with the renter. The only things that I've seen happen at Burns is really two things. I've seen the schools wanting to use the park for a field day and use it, and I've seen the houses around there wanting to do a little birthday party for whoever, their son or daughter. But as far as getting like a big rental, like some of those shelters at KLM hold 85 North people, I would not want to put that at Burns. We're just gonna get way too many complaints from the residents around there about parking and how busy the park's about to get.
Because it's mostly non-residents, is it, that are renting, or no, at KLM?
KLM, it's a variety of
Yeah.
both. Yeah, it's a variety of both. There's some businesses too that do their, like corporate, corporate
Right.
picnics and stuff like that out there.
All right. Robbins Park, resident feedback drives a lot of our projects, and that's how we plan in our budgets accordingly. So in Robbins Park last year, we were approached by a resident about the walking path. This is a phased project that's going to continue into 2025, but this year we did start the project, and it is completed. So any section of Robbins walking path that was in rough shape, we had a contractor come out there, saw cut out the pavement and put down new pavement, so we kind of section replaced it. We also, if you haven't been out to Robbins Park lately, there was a concrete slab around the bathrooms out there that actually separated from the building, so that's been removed and redone now completely. Around the building, it looks gorgeous out there. As you guys are around it, any of these parks, I encourage you, please call me, email me. These are projects that we can complete in this budget year if there are funds, or something we might need to plan for. So I encourage your feedback, or if you know of anything that you've seen lately, please let me know, and then we can plan accordingly for any of these, or figure out how we're going to phase these projects over the next few years.
Is adding a walking path in budget item, or just replace or repairing?
It depends. I mean, it could be a capital or budget depending on the dollar amounts. Typically, our paving and concrete budget and the operating cost is 10,000 or less. Once we start going north of that, it's planned into a capital and it's forecast future years out.
I mean, this reminded me, Mike, that I would like to propose, if everybody is willing, or many of us are willing, to kind of revive our commissioner, I'll call it park audits, where we would each pick a park or get assigned a park, and we would walk it and look for any possible improvements or repair
Yeah, I
items.
think it's a great idea. I mean, the more eyes, the better. I mean, we were out at KLM today. We received a resident call on something, so we went down and checked it out. And then we decided to take 15 minutes and actually walk the fence line, and we found 4 things that we need to address. So the more eyes, the better. We have lots of parks out there, and it does nothing besides help us plan.
Yeah, so maybe we could do that before the weather, gets too miserable. And we've done it a couple of different ways in the past. I think the last time it involved, counting benches and tables, and I don't know that that's particularly important. I think it's just a matter of walking the park and looking around and identifying.
Exactly. Keep in mind, we're doing this master plan, and this master plan is going to be very detailed dive into our inventory and our supplies and our quantities. This is more high level. Do we see a path that's buckling, or is there a garbage can that somebody burnt the whole inside out, which happens, or anything like that. I mean, that's what we're looking for, those quick fixes that we can try to address, or we can try to budget for quickly.
Sort of put your resident hat on, and what's, sort of not right about the experience in this park. So maybe in the next couple of months, we could do something like that.
Yeah, we can figure something out. Burns Field Shelter, going back in Eagle Scouts, we were approached by an Eagle Scouts. There's actually 7 of them. I'll have more formal update once the project's done, but the Burns Field Shelter will be patched. There's a couple areas where the paint has chipped off of it. It will be cleaned, and it's actually going to be painted by an Eagle Scout back to white. So it'll look really nice. It's a great project. It kind of goes with our theme of all the work we've been doing out there in Burns Field. So I was excited that they were interested in the opportunity. So as usual, I'll probably bring him in or them in when it's completed and let them share their experience with the commission.
Yeah.
I don't have too big of a lodge update on there. If you have questions, I'm happy to entertain them, but I was gonna want to talk about the pool for a little bit, if that's okay.
I was just gonna say you shared 2 months of data here. I know we've got now sort of, I'll say many, probably years worth of monthly data on the pipeline tracking. It'd be nice to see some like monthly comparative.
Yeah, we can start building that,
a-
and not only that, that'll help me then with our year report that we'll end up doing in January or February on it. So we can put something high level together and then build onto that further based on your feedback for when we do that commission report
Yeah.
at the end of the year.
And I wonder, and again, others can comment here, but sort of between the data that you have around the lodge, the data that you're collecting around programming, I wonder if there's a little working group we could set up to like just think about how we would like to see, or like sort of the right analytics that could be created around some of this data that's becoming available, so that it's useful to you and useful to us from a governance perspective as well. Maybe that's getting a couple of right people together for a couple of hours and just thinking through the best ways to organize and present data.
Sure.
I'm sort of thinking about you guys who seem to be sort of data oriented to begin with.
Okay, yeah, no, we'll get something for the KLM next report, and we can build off of it and get your feedback for sure on that. And then
Yeah,
we'll
and,
go
and if you
from
want something, some help from the
Sure.
from the ground up, pull some people together.
At the pool, keep in mind, this report will be much more in-depth, obviously, because we're gonna do an end-of-the-year pool report as we close out the books like we always do. But at the pool, the first page I wanted to share, and we shared this for the last, I think, 2 meetings now. Hinsdale is still topping registrations. Oh, the pool's closed, so they're not getting any more registrations. But Hinsdale has over 1,400 registrations, followed by LaGrange, LaGrange Park, Western Springs, and so on. So we sorted it there by city, so you can see where pool members are coming from. Overall, we did phenomenal on membership sales. We're at 2,702 memberships this year. And if you flip to the next page, and this data is as of August 25th, so there will be another report to come out on this as we get into further meetings. We're at 111% of this year's budget. We've surpassed our pool season pass sales, and our finance director also provided a chart on page 13 where you can actually see the breakdown going back all the way to 2019 from revenues completed. So we have surpassed all of our years currently, going as far back as 2019 as for revenue at the pool. It was a great year. Kind of happy it's over, to be honest, but it was a great year. And this is really good information to share. A couple things that I do want to point out on here, and you guys might notice it, is one is our program registrations. It says pool class registrations. Yes, those are down. Those are the group swim lessons, but the reason they're down is we pushed the private lessons hard this year. More people wanted the flexibility. They wanted the one-on-ones, so we increased our staffing. We increased our flexibility of scheduling, and we were able to boost our privates tremendously up. So I was pleased to see that experiment worked out well.
Hey, Mike, couple questions. Forgive my ignorance. What's the column 7-1 to 8-1?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
What's the column 7-1 to 8-1?
I think those are new
Page 10.
registrations.
Page 10.
Just in that period? Okay. And then again, sorry, a neighborly pass? What is a neighborly pass?
Oh, I see I'm sorry. I see where you're looking. So you have a neighborly pass. A neighborly pass is essentially Western Springs, Westmont, Downers Grove, any of our surrounding
Okay.
neighborly communities.
Okay,
They got a slightly discounted rate.
yeah.
Pretty big discount.
It's very minimal.
Is there any more construction that's gonna be happening at the pool, or is that pretty much done?
As far as projects for this year, we're completely wrapped up. But as far as like big overall renovations, that's gonna be really driven out from a master plan, and after that master plan, our ability to obtain further Osland grants or park grants to further those projects. Behind the scenes, yeah, we do some mechanical work to do that we're trying to plan internally, but from an overall standpoint of really diving into it, we gotta kind of get through some of these other steps and layers first.
Is there, I noticed the pool drains very quickly. I think on Tuesday it looked like it was
It did, it drained in a
halfway
day.
done. So I imagine there's mechanical work that's done once we close the pool, or there's sanitation work, or there's some kind of follow-up work that's done to close it down. Is that something we do, or do we have an outside firm that
No,
has
but
expertise?
us two and our public service department
Okay.
partner together and move
Get your
lounge
bleach
chairs.
and
Yeah, move lounge chairs, drain pipes, winterize things. It's really a team effort, but it's done completely in-house.
So I still wasn't sure on the column that's, I think it's July 1 to August 1. Is that where you're doing like discounted passes? Discounted
Oh,
registrations for that last month?
Yeah, so what we did for that month is we did like an end of the season pass sale.
Okay.
We didn't get a lot of passes, but for somebody, instead of buying 10 visit passes, we're like, hey, get X amount off of a membership if you buy it now. And we gained a little other revenue for it.
Okay.
So your resident passes are basically flat, but your neighborly passes are significantly up, 23 to 24.
Correct. And a lot of that's, contested to just marketing and pushing, or surrounding communities charging more than we are. But overall, our pool's pretty popular in the area. We also are the only pool that has a 50-meter pool in the area. So that's another draw. People are coming and doing lap swimming all the time. We always have 2 lanes minimum in, and they're busy from 5 a.m. till 7:30 at night.
Okay. So do we feel like we're sort of maxed out at the resident passes? Because I mean, I think we'd all like to see any growth come through the residents versus the neighborly.
No,
Or seeing the opposite.
there's never a day out there, and we kind of addressed this in our last meeting. There was not a day out there where we ever hit our bather load capacity, was near it. There was always a seat open. It felt free and open, and we're not at that limit. And if anything, to be honest, that neighborly passes really do help support our operations. We kind of welcome it. That revenue really does help with the high level we're paying with staffing costs and et cetera. But I don't feel myself that I professionally would ever say, no, we're done with passes, we can't sell anymore. But I will tell you, if I ever felt from a standpoint, if it was too busy or from a safety standpoint, I would absolutely raise that flag.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying, Mike, is that, your resident passes year over year are flat. The neighborly passes are up. So the neighborly passes are subsidizing the higher cost. Is there anything we can do to get more resident passes?
We could push. I did talk with our, planning department prior to the season actually on this topic similarly. And one comment that they made to us, and we weren't aware of it, is the amount of pools people are putting here in their own backyards. They're pulling permits left and right for pools here, and people just might be staying home and using their own pool.
I think that it seems like if anybody wants to get a pass and, have a membership, they can. There's nothing, it's not like there's not enough room, there's not enough passes for sale. I just think that people have their own pools, and with all the country club options, I think that we're just competing with so many different things that might just kind of be the threshold of people in the town that want passes.
Yeah, I mean, we do heavy marketing. We do preseason sales. I mean, there was paper ads taken out, social media ads. I mean, we spend a good amount of marketing money pushing our pool passes out to people, but in the end, I think it's just contribute to.
Well, if you look at your revenue from daily fees, as opposed to the resident passes, I mean, have you ever thought about reciprocal access? So as my family, we didn't think we would come enough to buy a membership because we're also going to the Oak Brook Splash Pad. We're also going to Sea Lion Park, where I think one easy way to sell more subscriptions is do the same thing that ski passes.
That's what we do. We have a 10-visit pass.
No, I mean, so somebody
Oak
who
Brook,
pays
yes.
for your annual
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
to get access to some of the neighboring.
So we used to do that with Clarendon Hills. They elected to get rid of it. for whatever reason. And we actually just met with Clarendon Hills on some other co-oping things and mentioned the possibility of bringing it up. And they didn't say no to it, but they didn't say yes to it because they have some big plans they're doing over there. Oak Brook, I've talked with Rob out there many times. They're just too busy with all their stuff going on to do reciprocal passes. And then Western Springs Pool is contracted out. And usually those contracted companies are pretty tight on doing their own process. It's not run by the park district or the village over there. But once we start getting further out, I think the next closest pool is going to be in LaGrange Park, and that's a private pool.
Oh, yeah, they have, yeah.
And then you're going out to Lombard. So the pools around us,
Elmhurst.
Elmhurst, yeah.
The
But-
splash pad at Ty Warner,
Yeah, isn't that free? Ty Warner or Westmont?
the splash pad is paid for.
So I mean, yeah, it's an option. I mean, and we definitely are reached out to people on it. I mean, but some of these organizations just don't want to do it. But we'll check.
Just curious, looking at your pool revenues 2019 to 2024, I was curious why we budgeted, why our 2024 budget was lower than the prior 2 years actuals.
When we're going through the budgeting process, we really did a deep dive into our budget, and we wanted to set realistic numbers. I mean, we did a great year before, but we wanted to make sure we set numbers that were achievable. So that's kind of how it came to our numbers being lower this year versus last year.
There wasn't a specific reason that we were expecting to do less this year than last year. It's
There were-
more about conservative.
Yeah, there's no
budgeting.
specific reason at all.
So we get a full pool report. When do we do that now?
It'll be in January or February.
January.
It'll come out. We're not till we get done through the budgeting process, just like last year. In the past, we used to do it in November. Last year, we pushed it back to after the first of the year. Our finance department's still getting in bills. We're still getting bills. We want to be able to close the books and show true data. In the past, sometimes we were showing those reports, and while you might see all your members and all your visit scans and whatnot, you weren't seeing the big picture because you're going to get a chemical bill on December 15th before the year's out.
But in advance of that, it seems like from what we're seeing here in the data, as well as you shared the article about the safety audit, there's a lot of good things that are happening at
Yes.
the pool. So
Yes.
thank you. Kudos to you and the team.
All right. Going on in reports, and before we go into old business, I do have another handout in front of you. This was from last year's budget, but this does break down the Parks and Recreation revenue and expenses. This was in our budget, but this kind of gives you a summary of where we were in 2023. When we close out the books going in 2024, we'll have a similar Excel sheet provided, but I know that there's been questions and comments of we want to be able to compare some apples to oranges, so we want to at least provide this with you guys and give you guys an opportunity to review it and have information in front of you. Correct.
Yeah, in the conversations that I've had with each of you, I think one of the themes that came out was more, visibility into financials, or how do our revenues and costs compare? Are we, do we have goals? Are we achieving those goals? So just in my conversations with Mike and Andre, we're trying to get some more of that data.
Yeah.
There are some limitations to what the village is willing to provide relative to what goes to trustees. So I think this summary here is really just kind of something to react to. So it's more information. It still may not be, in the ideal format or the kind of format that would be most useful to us. But we want to make this an ongoing, kind of dialogue of how can we get the right information in the right format that is useful to this group. So this is another, kind of installment of options or possibilities.
This is good.
And that's really all I have for the staff report. I mean, I do have some items going into old business, which also relates to finances here. If no one has any other questions on the staff report.
So, and I'm sorry, just to put sort of a period on my last statement. So if you could spend a little bit of time with this, if you haven't, and you have reactions or thoughts, please share them with Mike.
Yeah, and I can bring it
continue
back to the next
evolve.
commission too. If someone does want to email me or has a reaction, I have no problem putting a follow-up conversation in my report on it.
I guess the question that I had looking at this is just understanding the philosophy of, do you have some events that are intended to be money makers and others that are loss leaders? How do you think about those dynamics?
So the village has, our holiday events are all registration for. So we have a goal of breaking even or making money on it. But the village has several events, one each book, where we plan in our budget knowing that we're going to provide something for the community. One of them is being our Easter event out at Robbins Park. We do get some sponsorships for it. We do partner with the community house, but we go into it knowing there's going to be a loss and we have a set budget number to go to. Other ones being Fall Fest coming up in the fall. Same concept. We work with our partnering organizations. We get some sponsorships. We do our best to get some revenue, but we know that we're going to have a budget loss knowing we're providing something for the community. And the final ones being our summer book is July 4th. Same concept. We get actually good chunk of sponsors for that one and paid vendors, but we do budget accordingly to have this parade and put on a festival at the end. So there's three big ones in total. There's a couple little ones in summer. They're not very costly at all, like the Miss Jamie in the park here or the Gary Cantor program. So in the summertime, we'll have a couple, 3 to 4 little ones and movies in the park. But otherwise, our big staple events, our Santa events, Corks and Forks, there's a fees attached to it all to make sure we minimum break even.
Is this just a canned report? Or is this something you can download to Excel and manipulate?
No, this report is made from our finance departments, from them pulling multiple pieces out of our financial software and putting it together.
I would guess this is prepared in
Yeah,
Excel.
and they are
Yeah.
posted in our budget, our current operating budget for 2024 too.
Because my initial reaction is just, having comparisons, year over year versus budget with some percentages is kind of helpful to draw your eye to where you should be looking. Otherwise, it's a lot to plow through.
Yeah, and I had a similar reaction just in terms of the classifications or the categorizations of revenue and expense. If they were always using kind of the same language or the
Yes.
same buckets, then you could look, at a revenue item and.
And as we go on in the
corresponding
future, and
expense.
this is the first year this report was actually done. So as we go to the next year and the following year, we're gonna have
That's where I think our feedback could be helpful. to
More
the-
and more
to the
data to
next
come.
evolution of this.
Yeah.
To make it more useful for everybody.
sure.
But it's nice to have visibility into
Agreed.
this kind of information.
All right.
Okay, so that's reports.
Yep.
Moving on to old business.
So this is gonna be, and Chris and I chatted on this, this is gonna be something that is gonna be on the old business for probably the next year plus. We married the master plan and the capital update together. You can start with the master plan update. It currently has been, I've taken all your comments, incorporated them into it. It's been reviewed by, or initial review by administration. We have some meetings coming up here with our administrative staff to kind of shine up the document. And it's our goal, hopefully in the next 30, 40 days to put out this RFP. So once it comes in, we will go from there. But I just at least want to let you guys know that it's moving forward. And once that does come in, there's going to be, like we said initially, an extensive amount of work and conversation with the commission and ourselves to really get that information from the master plan. But that master plan will drive also our capital which is put in here for you guys. So what you're seeing in front of you here is our 5-year capital plan that is currently posted in the budget and online. And I want to preface with this capital plan, if it's a new project, our process here is to put it really in year 4 and 5, unless it is an emergency. So yes, things do adjust in here slightly. We might be able to sometimes tweak like a fence project or spread it out over a course of years. You might see, in your next year's budget, there's a big line item for 2025, but it's gonna be driven off of a maintenance issue that we're trying to accomplish. But when we get into this capital planning, or when we do these park tours, if you're out there and you see a park needs a new roof, that's something I think it really needs to start planning out year 4 and 5. And part of the reason I'm bringing this up is I want us as a group to get ahead of the curve a little bit. So next summer, we will be starting on 2029 items. And so this is the time to start thinking about 2029, because this year's, we've already gone through this capital thing. So I want us to really have this a fluent conversation going forward, and something that just doesn't come up, one meeting. So we're gonna leave this on the agenda, and we're gonna use it kind of as a working template going into the future and driven off of this master plan. But I'm happy to entertain any questions if you have.
And Mike, for clear, to make sure that I understand anyway. So the 2024 column, that's the year we're in right now. Presumably we are doing or have tackled all of the items identified in 2024.
Most, not all the items are done for whatever reason, whether more research needs to be done or it came in too high a bidded process, but I'd say 75% of our projects have been completed.
Okay. But maybe another way to say it, what's listed in 2024 was really sort of our expectation of the things that we were going to do this year.
Correct.
And many of them we've done. Maybe there's been a few for whatever reason that we've deferred or chosen not to do or whatever.
Correct.
So then 2025, the village is currently at the tail end of the budgeting process for 2025, right? So this list of 2025 items has been sort of presented or requested.
Correct.
And we're still waiting for sort of the final approval of that budget?
Yes, it still needs to go to the village board of trustees to be approved, but it's still in the process with our finance department right now of making sure that the capital numbers work out for the whole village, because there's multiple departments within the village that may have more pressing need for whatever that is, and sometimes every department's gonna have to give and take a little on something.
But in essence, the train has left the station on 2020.
Yes.
So the next opportunity for us to sort of weigh in or validate or however you want to call it is 2026.
Well, that's right. That's why I wanted to preface in the beginning. So yes, while there's going to be weigh-in and the master plan is going to tweak this, because the master plan might come back and I should blow this up bigger next time. When the master plan comes back, it might say that all your picnic tables are perfect. We know that's not the case, but it might say that, and we might scratch that out of 2026 and tweak that amount with something else. But from a standpoint of like, hey, we want to, build a brand new baby pool, that's something we have to plan years out. So that's why this is going to be really a big working document. Yeah, we're going to be able to do some tweaks, but for those bigger ticket items, we're going to have to start focusing on the future forecast.
Yeah. But historically, at least sort of my recollection is that we as a commission have not had a lot of sort of visibility or involvement in capital planning. And I think, again, sort of responding to some of the feedback that I've heard from this group is that feels like an area that we should be involved in, not necessarily, making up the list of ideas of capital items, but in reviewing, validating.
There's maintenance stuff, and then there's projects. So
Yeah.
I think it's more the projects.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do with the pool kind of stuff?
By rule of thumb,
And the master plan should be a valuable source of input to that once that's.
by rule of thumb, if it's 10,000 or more, it's probably going to go in the capital plan. If it's 10,000 or less, it probably is going to go in the operating plan. but that could change depending on the situation. Or, yeah. Oh. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this as a working document. We're gonna leave it on old business for a very long time. And as we go through this, if you see something, let me know, because I'd sooner get somebody out there, give me a quote, I can get some high level numbers and figure out where it's gonna fall on this going in the future. And then depending on what our master plan says, it may support it or it may not support it.
And one last question. Is there any value in indicating across the capital items where there are opportunities to fund those via grant versus?
So whenever there's an opportunity to get a grant, we are applying and we are trying for it. I will tell you right now, Osland and Park grants or museum grants, we won't even get awarded them right now until this master plan's done. They flat out have told us that we need to have a plan put in place to even qualify for these awards. But now granted, I've got some insurance grants through our insurance company. We've applied for some playground grants. Burns Field is a perfect example. We got some money on that. We've been contacted by some possible donors down the road. So absolutely, anything that there's a chance for, we're gonna apply for it and see where we can get money from. So if you see anything, I know CJ, you sent me something, I think it was the Osland grants information, please send it to me. I mean, I'm out there scouring the websites too, but the more information, the better. Yeah. Yeah, most of the ones that you see on here that are gonna be grant funded, right now, and I can go through them real quick, is at KLM, we have a $50,000 lift planned. I don't even know what the cost is gonna be on that. And then the pool, we have some work in the pump room at the pool that is funded through another source. But then there is gonna be possibility of a couple playgrounds coming up here, maybe Robbins Park, where it may be a donation. But I can go through and really circle those on here so we know.
Could you talk a little bit through call it the plantings aspect of parks? I know you said trees doesn't fall within your budget and grass doesn't really fall within you, but it seems like we're a little bit behind the curve in many other places in terms of naturalized plantings, and there's a lot of grant money associated with.
I think what I'll do the next meeting, we have a forestry department. John Fennell runs it. He does do presentation every single year, and I think it's been a while since you guys have seen that presentation, which talks about herbicides, et cetera. He used to come to these meetings a lot. I'd like to invite him to the next meeting, and he can help share some of his thoughts on that.
I think that's a good idea.
All right. Burns Field, just give you guys a little update on those projects that's going out there. I know we talked about the shelter. That's an Eagle Scout project. The tennis courts are completely done. The basketball courts have been paved. It's been seal coated, but it has not been painted yet. The nets should be going in, I'm hoping, this week. We were able to achieve a little savings on this project, which helped us put in new volleyball standards out there too. So there will be new volleyball standards going in. The net will look pretty nice now. New basketball standards going in, and then the company that did the tennis court painting will come back out and paint the basketball court. All the fence work's been completed. It looks really nice out there.
I think the tennis courts look great.
Yeah, it was a really nice project. We're getting some great feedback on it. I'm happy to see us come into a park and kind of hit some of these projects all at once. So I think it was a really nice update for that park.
Okay, so moving on to new business and the KLM dog permits.
So, I know that this commission's had many hours of conversation on this topic, and we're not looking to go down that road again. I think we're all supportive of the direction we're going in. But since in 2022, when we came up with the new dog ordinance and the new dog hours, we've some time's gone by. and we've had some time to observe and receive feedback. And it's time now to take that to the next step of tightening up what's out there. And a lot of this is driven from dog fights, people getting run over by dogs, weddings, dogs running into weddings. So we took the opportunity this summer to actually make a campaign, which is a little piece of item you see in front of you. We had our interns actually go out there and pass these out to people. Some people took them, some people kept walking away. Once we did our campaign, we then put signs out there, even more signs than we have, letting people know where dogs are allowed and where dogs aren't allowed. And then our police department supported us and went out there and started issuing citations. They issued 24 citations or warnings. 80% of them were non-residents. So most of our users of that facility are non-residents, and we were able to determine that. So after having conversations with our deputy police chief, myself, Chris, thank you. I know you helped out on a couple of the conversations. We decided it was best to start looking into some of these other off-leash dog parks and some of the stuff that they may have implemented and we don't have implemented. One of them being Maze Lake. Did I say that right? Maze Lake. So we looked at Maze Lake. We actually called them. Our deputy chief actually called them on the phone with me, and we had a conversation. They do have a permitting process for their dogs out there. And what we're looking to put into place is a hybrid approach that they have. We are looking to bring a permitting process if you want your dog off leash. If you don't want your dog off leash and you're just walking on leash, whatever, that's fine. But if you want your dog off leash, we're looking to have them permit. That way we can prove vaccination, build a database. So when users call the police department and say, this happened, they're gonna have access to a database of dogs that may have registered. Hopefully they do. But one thing that Maze Lake does is they issue ID cards for the dogs. It's like size of a credit card. It actually clips to the back of their collar. It's bright, it's visible. Our police department wants us to copy that approach so their officers can see that the dog is registered, but they personally feel it's gonna bring a sense of self-policing then, because you're gonna see users out there that may not have this tag and they're gonna kind of help self-police this approach. But also then it's gonna give the village an opportunity to personally, when you register, provide our rules, get all their information, let them know that this is a yearly process. And then a couple other things we're looking to do with this permit process is keep it cost-friendly, $15. We're not looking to raise money on this. At $15 is really just to offset the time and cost of printing our cards, which we can do in-house. We have our pool printer, it's the same thing. And then a couple of other things we're wanted to do this is after talking with our insurance company, they recommended this approach. Because then we're able to have them sign a waiver of liability and hold harmless, separating the village from some of the issues that could arise out there. Additional rules that we're looking to add into our ordinance is owners must carry a dog leash at all times. Right now, a lot of owners just open up the car door and let their dog go. And if their dog shows a sign of aggression or something, there's no leash. So we want the owners always to have their dog leash. We want to state in there how owners will be held responsible for any injuries or damages caused by their dog. Dogs must be kept within view and under control at all times. If someone's in the dog leash park, we don't want them running to the east side of KLM and they're stuck on the west side of KLM because you can't see their dog then, essentially. Dogs must be at least 4 months old and up to date on their vaccinations, and we want to spell out the vaccinations. And then bringing sick dogs or dogs in heat will be prohibited. It's our plan to bring this to our village board because it's an ordinance that they're going to have to approve. And then once the ordinance is approved, we're going to put a marketing plan behind this, how to get the word out so we could start this in the spring of 2025. My ideas for initial marketing plans is we will go out and hand papers out to the owners there. We have a list of dog residents that were at the last meetings. So I have all that information to contact them. We'll do whatever we have to do, paper ad, Facebook ads. We're going to try to get the word out there and make this as convenient as possible. This will be able to be done online or in person, essentially, this registration process.
Why do the Hinsdale residents pay the same as somebody from LaGrange Park? And I remember from the hearings that a huge part of the crowd they're not even Hinsdale, and they were some of the most vocal, but why are
We can change it.
subsidizing them taking their dog?
I honestly just threw a flat fee in there. I'm open to present to the
I mean,
commission
I
whatever.
think that.
I mean, trustees.
I think that the residents of Hinsdale should be treated much differently. I mean, it's Hinsdale Park, so I don't know why Hinsdale residents don't get it free, and then we charge the other ones $100.
And we'll have to
a year.
charge something.
$15 is nothing for a year.
We'll have to charge that minimal, probably no matter what, because it is costly to print these cards and buy the ribbons. So that
But
price
if
is,
80% of the users are outside of Hinsdale, I think I may not be 80%, but I think a lot of them are. Why don't you just jack up the rate for
We
the
can.
outside of Hinsdale and then,
Yeah,
let the
well-
Hinsdale residents have it free?
I mean,
Well, I think it was 80% of the citations were for non-residents.
Right.
Yeah, but I remember when we did the
Doing
hearings,
something like 50.
there was a lot of
It-
non-Hinsdale residents.
to cover our cost of this ribbon though, I would have to do a nominal fee to the residents, because otherwise the village is just paying out expenses. So
But I think Steve said, if you
They're
charge
not-
enough of the non-residents, they're subsidizing
Oh.
the cost for the residents.
So the other thing I do think we can maybe increase, I know, the Forest, Preserve District of DuPage only charges $55 a year, and that's to use any one of the DuPage Forest dog
it's
parks.
free if you're
It's
over
not
a certain
service
And it's
level.
like,
We're trying to increase usage, right? We'd like to have
No.
fewer
We're
dogs.
not.
we're not trying to
running around,
increase.
right? So it's not it isn't like the pool, we're trying to get more people. We'd like to have fewer people,
We'd like to have
dogs running and
and-
disturbing weddings and whatnot,
people that know the rules too. Yes.
yeah.
and
So,
accountability.
I don't know, I think, why don't we make it a little bit harder for a non-Hinsdale resident? Why don't you make it more expensive than, you know? I think for a year that's a great perk if you got a dog, is to give them that giant field to just run loose, which is what they do. And to me, if I had a dog and I did that, it would be worth a lot more than $15. It'd be, I don't know, I just think it's.
I mean, we can change whatever. When we started this conversation initially in our little committee group, it was just what are going to be our expenses. That's really what our focus point was at the time. But I mean, I don't really have a decision either way on the fees, to be totally honest, and I can present either or to the trustees, whatever the commission recommends.
Well, I did go back and I was looking at something that we did from 2022, and I think that, we had some proposed we had ideas, and in the end, we just ended up changing the hours, I believe, is what we actually did. And one of the things was that we talked about having a permit free for Hinsdale residents, $50 for non-residents. That's what that's what I see in here. 2-dog maximum, so. And it was the same thing about signing the waiver, acknowledging agreement. So, I think that if you were to, I think you have to be really careful when you're proposing something new for this dog park, that we remember and look back and remember all the conversations that we did have with all the people that were in here, so that they don't then come back and say, oh, we talked about this, and we decided, we thought we were gonna do this, and now you're gonna do this. I mean, what happened? And, they're a group, they're very, what was the word I'm looking, they're very passionate, and they will get the word out, and they will kind of, you don't want things to get blown out of proportion for no reason, so, so whether or not we do decide to keep it, free for Hinsdale residents and a fee, or like a $5, the idea is that if we're saying that everybody does need a permit, that right there is gonna be a big kind of, some Hinsdale residents might be like, oh my God, now we gotta come
Well,
get a permit.
that's why we initially, I think, in our initial conversations, it was to cover expenses, but
Yes.
also not to cause more heartburn than we're already causing. So that's kind of why we just threw a number out
Yeah.
there.
And I
The
think,
permit's to track the dog.
Yes,
It's
I
to
don't
register the dog and to know what dogs are doing it, so we
Yes.
can't really get past that.
no, I think
Kinda
that,
have to do
yeah.
that, right? And then the only other lever, the hours now, that obviously are levers, but the only other thing to me is the rate.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is we're not, covering the overhead so people from LaGrange Park can go walk their dog. I think it's for the village of Hinsdale, and I think it should reflect that, so that's my thought.
And to
I'd
point,
agree with that. My concern, thinking back to 22, is more enforcement, right? Because I think one of the concerns was that you're still going to have people who are going to ignore the rules, right? And so if they don't have their dog tagged, everybody's going to start calling the police. And I seem to recall the police just saying, you know, we can't be out there dealing with this on a nonstop basis because they
One
weren't
of the
passionate.
problems we had is when we started going through all the incidents, remember that?
Yeah.
There weren't very many.
Yep.
So we're sitting here saying, well, there's a lot of incidents, and then we brought up the incidents, and there really was just one or two little incidents. So it sounds like you do have to have continuous monitoring of it and continuous enforcement of it in order to have a case for what you're doing.
Yeah.
So a couple of things here just to clarify. Part of the reason also for a non-resident fee, and even if it is the 15 or the 10, is we do have admin time to consider too. So we have staff that are printing cards, we have staff that are mailing cards, we have postal expenses. So there is something to consider there. And then as far as incidents, we do have documented incidents, one of them even being this weekend that occurred out there that our police was involved in. So this is definitely a need, and this was a directive almost from our police department to try to get to this next approach to be more like Maze Lake. And then and one other thing, Maze Lake, we just kind of looked it up. They are over $100 for non-residents to be out there.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
agree
a
with
good
Steve.
deal- A good deal.
I agree with Steve. You
There's
take
not
the
that many
cost.
places where you can take your dog and
Yeah.
let him off leash and run for a year. I think that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah, I don't think the residents should pay anything.
How large is the Maze Lake area as in comparison?
Fenced in, it's 3.5 acres for all dogs, and there's a 0.5 acre for small dogs on the west side.
Versus our space is how many acres?
The entire park is.
Except it's not, you can't really look
Can't
at
do
the entire park.
I
It's
mean,
just that
it's
north
ha-
area.
you know,
It's like a third of the park.
Maybe 20 acres. I think the entire park's 55 acres. So just looking at the picture, maybe 20.
It's a great,
It's a lot
I
bigger than three.
know, I just, how do we
like the
police this?
savannah or something.
Well, I will say that, I mean,
And it's
I
not,
have-
I mean, it's
I
not,
have-
it's not, you know, on some level, it's up to Parks and Rec to police on some level, but if it's a village ordinance, then it's really the police department that really has to police this, and they don't have the resources to do this.
Well, that was the problem, right? They
I
didn't have
mean,
the,
I
they
mean,
were worried
maybe-
about.
I think maybe it comes down to having some sort of a clear plan of like, we are gonna, you know, the police are going to be out here, are gonna be out there to monitor and issue citations, you know,
So
this many times, you know, a week, or this many hours a week. We won't tell people
So
what it's
a-
gonna be,
a couple.
but just for them to know, you know, at any point, you could be subject to getting a citation. I
So
mean,
they do that, and they are out
I
there.
know
but
they do. I'm not saying they don't. I'm
also,
just-
from a liability standpoint, though, a permitting process removes the village from that because right now there's no waiver sign, there's no hold harmless sign, there's nothing. And that's the biggest factor here. I think the best approach right now is just say residents free, non-residents $50, and let's just see where it goes.
Then you're looking for some of the residents to police it as well, right? So if I'm a Hinsdale dog walker and I don't see somebody with the tag on the collar, then there are a lot of people that will go up and say, hey, listen, man, you gotta have that dog registered.
But that was another thing that I actually brought that up, and everybody jumped back and said, we don't want people like
Yeah.
approaching other people and then being attacked.
not
You don't know who you're
officially.
dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, we brought that up in 2022. This
Yeah.
idea that like the good citizens are going to help police against the bad citizens, and it sounds like the incidents have not decreased any.
Well, the policing also comes from the card. So, like our vision and what other dog parks do is, if they don't see the card on there, someone's gonna get an email. I don't think that they're gonna approach them and be like, "You're breaking the rule." What they're gonna do is email Park Rec and say, "Hey, I noticed this out there," and as we get those, that's when we're gonna team up with our police department and.
I think a lot of the people out walking the dogs are people that do it all the time. I don't think it's like a whole new crew of people every day walking dogs. These are people that know each other and you can tell just from the people that are here, they all know each other, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a community.
I
you know.
mean, I had a similar reaction around enforcement because the rules are only as good as the enforcement around them. But I mean, you know, as Mike has mentioned, he's involved the police department in thinking through this plan, and they are in fact supportive and
Right.
advocating for it. And Deputy Chief Lilly, I think it's like DuPage Wildlife that enforces or you know, their parks sheriffs or whatever they call them, that enforces Maze Lake. And he had talked to, you know, sort of his counterpart
Correct.
there. And each of their officers is required to visit the dog park twice a shift and, you know, monitor the activity. And I think I pushed him a couple of times on, like, do you have the resources to do something similar to that? You know, you're willing to sign up for this? And he has said yes, so.
Yeah, he did, and he said they currently already do that, but it might not be a set time depending on what's going on around the village. But yes, he
I
did.
think it's
feel-
mostly the community service aides
Correct.
versus the, you know, actual.
I think it's a natural progression. You know, we had this conversation, it was 2022, now it's been 2 years later, and we changed the hours, and we're still having trouble with enforcement, so now we're going to do the permits, which we had talked about in 2022, we just never actually did it. So I don't think it's coming out of nowhere, you know, that this permit idea. Hopefully, people will, you know, understand the benefit of it being, you'll be in the database, you'll have the, you know, the liability, you'll understand the rules.
I think it all looks very legit, very reasonable, and
Yeah,
I can't find anything on here that somebody you could argue with, really.
And I would emphasize public safety. I mean,
Right.
that's really, people get that.
Right.
Like,
And
do not
insurance.
want a child getting hurt because of this.
you know, the thing about our village, which I don't think a lot of people understand, is that dogs are not allowed in the parks even on a leash. So I think, so even
Is
where.
that something that we can change? I mean, that seems crazy to me, that dogs are bigger users of our parks than children are. And if you know, why have something on the books that nobody follows, that is not enforced?
It's a village ordinance right now. No dogs are allowed in any part of the parks. I mean, I'm putting
but
signs
that's
out
the
there
point.
like
If we're going through and
crazy.
trying to amend the ordinance, like, let's talk about the whole ordinance, because it really doesn't seem sensical in any world.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I think,
That's a big- That's a big
my
deal.
goal behind here is not to rehash 2020 and 2021, what you guys went through. My goal here is just to kind of enforce at first the KLM one, and if we want a bigger conversation, I'm open to that, but I think right now our focus needs to be just on the KLM.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good conversation. I think
Right.
you just need to separate them.
Well, because even enforcing at KLM, really, the only time that dogs are supposed to be in KLM is the off-leash, right? Or can people walk their dog on that path?
No, it's only supposed to be the off-leash
Right,
time.
so theoretically, the officers, you know, there's morning hours and there's afternoon hours where there's strict enforcement of that area north of the creek. Other times when, I mean, you know, they can still drive by there, and if people, I just don't know that they're gonna give tickets, but the point is enforcing this particular issue is a morning and a night issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, we've been out there before, and I've called our police department, who's very supportive, and I said, hey, can you swing out here? There's, you know, person running around without the dog, and they came right out, and
Because there is usage of the dog park during non-dog park area. People are out there with dogs during,
All the time.
I mean, that's another enforcement. So
Oh,
they
right,
should
so-
be
right,
checking
yes, yes,
sort of
yes, I see what
during
you're saying.
non-dog park hours as well.
and this also helps us then with our database too, because right now we get calls and we have no idea who these people are. We can't point them in any direction. We have no information on them. We have nothing. So this is going to help also support the police department's database. And who knows, like our Deputy Chief Lilly said, is they pick up lost dogs, and you know, while the residents can register their dogs and get tags, they have nothing on non-residents. Now they're going to get a database even further to support their efforts.
Mike, I think when you and I spoke, we at least entertained the idea of doing a little focus group or some sort of feedback session, or even via email from the people who were involved and spoke up during, you know, this topic a couple of years ago. We have email addresses from that. I'm curious if anybody feels like that's something we should do before we really go forward with
Yeah, I
this
don't like the
change.
sound of that. I think we did talk about a lot of this stuff towards the end of it. And, yeah, I don't know, that sounds like,
It's tricky.
that sounds like Quagmire to me.
Well, if you're a Hinsdale resident and you're not gonna get charged anything, what's your objection to this plan? The time that it takes
Well, I think
you?
the big thing from those meetings was they didn't want the fenced-in
Yes,
mini
Exactly.
thing, so that's gone.
that's where this all was.
And I think when we brought up these other things, I don't think there was a lot of pushback. I don't think that was a big hot thing. It was just really about the fenced-in area that they were worried about, so. I think we just be opening up the,
I don't
Yeah,
think they're
well,
gonna have a lot of the Hinsdale residents are gonna have heartburn with this. I just seem to recall, maybe I'm crazy, that at that time, the police department did not support this because they were worried they'd be overwhelmed with calls. Am I nuts? Does anybody remember?
I don't remember them not supporting it. I remember that there weren't a lot of
I seem to think that,
information on past incidents. That was a
Yeah,
problem.
I got some mixed signals. I didn't necessarily take away or remember that they didn't
Okay.
want anything.
but I suppose if the police support it, then
And Deputy Chief Lilly was, according to at least the minutes that I read, he was in all these meetings, or at least several of them,
Yeah.
sitting here addressing it. So, and he's the one that is really supportive of this right now too.
okay. Well, I mean, if
Yeah,
it's-
I think if there's no charge for the Hinsdale residents, it's just a matter of safety and tracking. I don't think we're gonna have any problem with it. So I think it's good to go.
I mean, one minor feedback, and I think I had shared this with you before, was in sort of the ideal scenario in my mind is somebody could register right there on site. When they walk up, they see a sign that says you gotta be permitted or whatever. Could I register right there with using my phone?
Yeah, you can go
And
through.
if you need vaccine information, if you need a whole bunch of information, I'm not likely to have that at my fingertips.
You can register, absolutely. We could make signs with QR codes on it, but our registration software, RecTrek that we use, I mean, I'm gonna set it up right through that website. So just like a pool membership, they're gonna be able to go, they're gonna sign up, we'll ask to upload their information. Yes, they might not get the card right there, but we then can contact them and say, do you wanna come pick it up or mail it to them? So my plan was to set it up anytime someone registered, that we get a report daily, we know who all the new people are that are signing up for it. But I don't need to have somebody physically come in here by any means. We'll keep it convenient as possible. And we're gonna do some drives like we talked about. So like when we first enforced this, I could hotspot my computer, I could put some staff out there
Right
for a
during
couple
Saturday
days.
morning or whatever, their peak,
Yeah.
peak usage time.
Luckily, we have
Register
the
people on
technology
site.
now in place to handle all that.
Just-
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Just on the point about the tags, in DuPage County, people don't actually wear them in the dog parks because if the dogs are running off leash, they're biting one another, play biting, and you'd lose them immediately. So I've taken a dog to the off-leash areas a lot in Maze Lake and Green Valley, and you don't see dogs with it. So I think assuming that that's going to solve, the problem with identifying whether a dog is registered or not.
So when
is-
I talked with Maze Lake and I talked with, forget the guy's name out there, he said that they have them on, because they have to carry their leashes, that they're supposed to be on their handles of their leashes and it's supposed to be visible. That's at least what he directed me. Or it was on their, or a lanyard.
Like
yeah.
a lanyard, like a.
It's definitely possible that some people have them on their leashes. Dogs do not wear them in the parks.
So the people wear them.
So we can offer several options, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, realistically, this is a good test case. Spend an hour there and see if anybody actually uses it, because in my experience, they don't.
We get a ticket then if they don't use it, so.
They don't. They just ask you to show you. You can pull up on your phone and say, "Here's a picture of my."
We'll deputize our KLM event host to go write tickets out there.
well, why don't they wear it?
Because you lose it immediately, because the dogs are running around chasing one another, biting one. I mean, you'll lose collars in off-leash areas because the dogs are pulling off one another.
They're pulling off each other's collars?
Yeah. That's how sprightly your dog is.
So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I got. I mean, I'm not saying we won't have to have further discussions and you know, get,
Are you looking for any sort of approval from us on this?
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a recommendation at least, I mean, so I can bring it up to the village board of trustees, and I know one of the recommendations was the fee, and, but yeah, I'll make all those adjustments, and if you could get a recommendation, I'll proceed to the next level.
Are you planning to offer these permits? Are you offering to either mail them to the people who register or pick them up?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I'm gonna treat it just like the pool passes, with the exception, you don't have to be a member already, you can just go online and do it.
Do you want to take a vote on this, or, I mean, the way that I might summarize, you've got a couple of sort of good ideas, and there seems to be a consensus around those tweaks or, you know, adjustments to the plan that you shared.
Yeah, so we would take a vote on
I
the
haven't heard
recommendation.
any objection to moving forward, you know, with those adjustments, that it seems like a continuation of where we were headed before, and to your point,
Okay.
enough time has gone by that we can
All right,
kind of reassess and
I
say,
guess
here's what we need to do.
one thing I would say, because the trustees have just gone through this with e-bikes, and there was a lot of discussion and argumentation about banning e-bikes and restricting e-bikes and where they could go and all of that, and I haven't seen any change since this was implemented. So, you know, is there some sort of learnings maybe that the police department has about education that's required, outreach? You know,
they just, the ordinance just got passed, you're absolutely right, and I do know that they're working on some marketing. I know from a Parks and Rec standpoint, I'll let you know that Todd and I have made signs that says QR codes and says high level, some of the e-bike rules that we're gonna start posting in some of our parks, and they just came in this week. Monday.
Monday,
So
pick 'em up.
we're gonna start putting some of them out there on behind the backstops, because I've got some feedback like at Pierce Park and Vec Park. I got some feedback at KLM, so we're gonna at least start putting some signage out there. But the police department themselves is working with the schools and getting in the e-backpacks and trying to get some marketing together on that.
I don't see how it hurts anything, and if it helps you on the insurance,
Mike, how would this get presented to the trustees?
So essentially, I'm gonna take the memo that's presented in front of you guys here and tweak a couple things on it. Guess one of them is which being the fee on it, but then it would be more of a formal RBA presented to them, and then I would go to the trustee meeting and do the similar approach here.
So maybe after whatever adjustments or edits that you make, you recirculate it to this group, and then we'll all, you know, kind of give a, yeah, looks good, okay, to move forward, or any further feedback, and, you know, kind of one more round of our review.
Okay, yeah, that's simple.
And then the trustees will have to approve it ultimately.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation with our chair, that this is coming, and then the trustees will have to approve it, and then we'll go from there. All right.
Correspondence.
Yeah, you know, since we met the last time, I just wanted to share, and I'm sure all of you read the Hinsdalean every single week it comes out. But I wanted to at least share some of the paper articles showing good things that the Parks and Rec Department's doing. Since our last meeting, I think we've had 4 or 5 articles in the article. One of them being our 5-star audit at the pool. That is extremely difficult to achieve, and I've actually never have had one in my whole entire tenure of working in aquatics. And not many pools do get 5 stars. I mean, 3 stars is great, 4 stars is exceptional, 5 stars is you're on top of the world. So that is really kudos to our managers that are out there, our coordinators that are out there with all the school teachers, our training platform. So I was very pleased to see that. And then a little article in here about our interns. I know they didn't have a chance to come here. Our meetings just didn't line up, but we had 2 great interns working in our department this year. It really helped Todd and I out. I mean, it allowed us to sit here in Village Hall and focus on some administrative tasks or go out to some of our facilities, and we were able to send them do some of the busier work. So it was great. And one approach we took with our interns is Ella, she's going into finance. So I had her working on finance aspects. Jeremy, he is getting a degree in Parks and Recreation, so we took him on our wings for Parks and Recreation. So we try to make it a learning experience for them versus just a busy work experience. And that's really all I have for the correspondence, unless somebody has any questions.
No, it's great to see, you know, that sort of coverage in the local media.
Great.
Other business and remaining discussion items.
Yeah, you know, we don't have too much to talk about here. I don't see this going too long, and we'll keep some of these items on here for next meeting. But one of them I do want to get some feedback on, and I'd encourage you guys to please send me an email with this feedback individually. But we've sent out an annual member survey every single year, and that survey is for our pool. And then we take that data from our members, and it goes into our aquatic report. We present it to the commission. This survey's been the same questions in place for years. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of any of these questions, but I'm asking if we want to start asking some other questions. So like I know in the past, locker room cleanliness was one of the questions, and it might still actually be on here. And I don't think it's not an issue anymore. So I'm wondering if individually, if you guys could, if you have ideas, if you have thoughts on questions, so we can get this survey out before all of our members forget the pool season happened, that'd be great, because then I'll compile this information into that thorough aquatic report.
And you
that we
don't
get.
have anything from, I mean, it has been a long time since it's looked like this, but I do remember, and maybe that was when I was not on the commission, that it was a much more extensive survey. So you don't have any way, there's nothing. in
This
your
was all done
records.
through SurveyMonkey, and
Oh,
we
okay.
only have so many years, and it's
Okay,
been this one.
gotcha.
But we can build whatever we want into
Mm-hmm.
this. It's a great opportunity, and we do get feedback from it that we carry over to the next pool season. So please review it, look at it, and then let me know what you're seeing in front of you is last year's survey questions that was in the 2023 aquatic report. And I kind of want to set a deadline on this. So if by the end of the month, if that's fair, if you could get me any response or thoughts, and then I'll get something out.
I'd say by the end of the week or next week, just
That's even
otherwise-
better.
Otherwise,
I-
it's too easy to forget about it.
That's even better.
Yeah, I have some specific question ideas, but generally I would say, I think we could do more to like call out specific features or aspects of the pool and get sort of a rating, you know, kind of a quality rating
Sure.
of those things. And same thing with your open-end question. I think there could be a few more targeted open ends rather than just one broad catch.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just remember when you send it, please individually to me via email. Other discussion items, and this is something I kind of want, we're going to talk about and bring up in the next October meeting, and I'd like to have a more thorough conversation on this. Corks and Forks, we've done for a couple of years. It has not run for the last year and a half. If those of you that don't know what Corks and Forks is, it's out of KLM. We have one of our preferred food vendors come in. We pair with a local wine shop, downtown wine shop in Hinsdale. They'll do an education session on all the pairings and talk about the wines, and then people can enjoy a nice meal, and it's a nice gathering. My first year in 2022, it was held in February, and I think we had 80 plus tables. Since then, we've only had like 5 or 6 people register for the events, and we've had to cancel it because it is a costly event to put on, and this is one of those events we're looking to break even on. So thinking of how we can continue to highlight KLM in that facility, because I do think it was a nice event to have out at KLM and bring people to show what that facility is. We're thinking about rebranding it. And, you know, one of the ideas we had, and we were just spitballing, is doing like a wind down summer event. You know, after Uniquely Thursday's done at the end of the year, maybe we pair with a wine company. We do it outside. We have a food vendor, and we can call it Wind Down Summer. And I'm not saying we have to have a rock band out there. Maybe we have some nice music. I'm not sure. So I don't know if you guys have any ideas or any thoughts, or if you've been to any other places that does events like this, but we'd like some feedback and suggestions. By the next meeting, I think we're going to present some more ideas to you guys too on this, but we would get this into our summer book is when we'd be planning on doing it. And that summer book comes out in April.
We start assembling it at the start of the year. So January, we'll start assembling it. It comes out.
So it's something that we're going to want to talk about sooner or later, and that's why we're bringing it to the commission now, essentially.
So just so I understand, so the first time you offered it, you had a ton of participation.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's new.
And-
Some of these events just, they lose their luster, you know?
But then ever since, you've never had more than a handful of people register for it. You
Correct.
haven't actually run it in a year and a half.
Correct. We tried it, running it twice actually this year. Once in February or March.
It was once, since I've been here, we ran one and tried to run it in fall, and then we tried to run it again in, it was either March or April, which we did adjust the prices. It used to be you could only buy half a table or a full table. We went down as, you could buy it as an individual, a couple, a half table or a full table to see if we can get more people and enter, even with all the same marketing and push that we've done in the past. There just was not very much interest in it.
One thing to keep in mind, when whatever event we do select and whatever we do, we will have to work with our preferred vendors no matter what, because the village does not have a liquor license. So we work with these vendors that do have liquor license, that do have all the permits, that have all the paperwork on file with the village from insurance and liability standpoint to help serve and manage alcohol consumption at KLM. So that is one thing that we would not be able to change. Not saying we can't partner with other organizations too, but. All right. The last thing, and I already kind of talked about it, is if anyone had any questions on the Holiday Express, I know it was in the reports. It's exciting to see come back. We'll see where we go with it.
It's a great event. I did it with my kids. It was wonderful. And that roundhouse out in Aurora, they absolutely thought they were in the North Pole. Absolutely believed it, so.
The concern that you mentioned to me, Mike, was just that it's such a limited amount of seats available that, how well or how broadly are we serving the community?
Yeah, so this.
And maybe you mentioned maybe go to a lottery system or something like that.
Yeah, we'll have to evaluate how it goes this time. It's only Hinsdale residents in this. We didn't even open up to non-residents. So this is only Hinsdale residents, and we do have a lot on a wait list. I do know years in the past they had a lottery, and that might be something we'll have to re-implement, but we're gonna get through this year, bring it back, and then evaluate it and go from there.
I mean, my recollection, it's always been, or when it existed, it was always super popular and
It's
always
great,
sold
great
out
event.
and
Very
got
Christmassy.
first-hand experience here. So it seems like a nice one to bring back. We can manage it.
Other than that, if anyone has any questions, otherwise, the last thing I had in front of your plate tonight was an email we got from a resident just stating how nice KLM was and how great of a time they had for their event there, and they thanked us, and I just wanted to share that with you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you. To me, this felt like a pretty full agenda and a lot of good stuff that's happening and getting good recognition from the community around them, so thank you. Okay, well, so with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Well, great, then our,
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
oops,
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
jumping the gun.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
Commissioner Keen,
I
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Chairman Bora.
Aye. All right, well, so it's unanimous. We should adjourn.
Thank you.